Today's episode is about transferring my Global West Weld In rear coilover system to my brand new rear axle. Let's do this. Welcome back to Fast Monty's Garage. Today is part one of our installation series of my brand new Currie F9 housing with 35 spline third member and full floating bearings. I cannot wait to utilize this on the track and autocross. That's what it's built for. If you missed last episode, go check it out. I did a plant tour with John Henson. He walked us through all the differences of all the different type of rear ends they have. And by the way, they make them for any kind of car. So if you end up getting one, leave a comment below. Say, hey Mike, your episode, I loved it. And by the way, I got one. And this is the car I drive, XYZ, or 69 GTO. I'll be number one. 69 GTO. It works great. Leave a comment below so other people can learn from that. So this episode, like I mentioned, is converting the Weld In Global West coilover system from my 10 bolt to this. So we're going to be doing some cutting, some welding, some grinding, of course. And the next episode, after we get this mocked up, is we're going to paint with Cerakote. Hell yes, I've never done it before. That's the whole motto of my channel, right? But we're going to do it at home. This is the air dry version. I cannot wait. Then after that, after the paint dries, we'll do a full assembly to show you what it takes if you buy one in the raw. Remember, at Currie, you can buy one fully assembled, painted, with brakes of your choosing. Speaking of brakes, we're going to also talk about Willwood brakes that I have in my 10 bolt. We're going to convert it to this axle. Willwood hooked me up with a kit to do exactly that, so I can retain my rotors and my calipers to save money. Now the difference, the big difference is, which I'm looking forward to, the parking brake is a tiny caliper on the new system, whereas on my 10 bolt, it's a drum brake, and it's terrible. So I don't know if that's the same for all 10 and 12 bolts or they utilize a drum brake, but I don't like it. So if I've ever helped you out, by the way, consider hitting that join button. All proceeds from that join button help the channel buying more parts like this and doing more videos, or just get a hat. Either way, let's do this. So let's get under the car and check out the Global West system and why I like it so much. All right, under the car, we have where you typically mount your strut. Even on stock applications, your strut is mounted to this hole and then pointed up at an angle. And what I love about this system is the coilover mounts where the spring perch is. Okay, I realize this is tough to see, but this coilover is perfectly vertical. It goes right up through where the spring perch mounts. It's structurally solid up there because we added a plate, and I'll show you that when I pull this out. But I like it because it's perfectly vertical. They're not angled struts. The second thing that's really neat, if you might have noticed, there's an anti-squat angle built in where this would be the stock location for a normal trailing arm. This lowers it down and changes our squat angle, and we'll talk more about that later. I have Robert to thank for that, so thanks, Robert. But let me go ahead and take this axle out. All right, lift with your back. Oh, just kidding, wasn't that heavy? Oh, but that is, Jesus. I'm starting with the brakes, so before I take them apart, this is what the parking brake assembly looks like from Willwood. And all I'm going to do is remove this cotter pin and take this pin out. Then that gives me enough slack to take the tabs off each brake. Here's that drum brake tab I was telling you about. That comes right off. Then you take this nut off and then you can take it out, just like that. One done. Your main hydraulic line goes from the front of the car to the rear through the rear cross brace, and there's a clip on the back right in here, and it's stubborn. You're gonna have to get like a screwdriver in there and tap it out. But now there's just the acorn nut on one side and this nut on the other. Unscrew them, take them apart, and prepare for a leak. Drive shaft is off and up out of the way. It's not going anywhere, but I did take a measurement with my pinky to see exactly how long the drive shaft is before, because that's the big question mark. When I put the new axle and third member in, is the drive shaft length going to be the same or close to it. Otherwise, we're going to have a little problem. I don't recommend this at home because this is dangerous, frankly. So I know that. You don't have to flame me up. So that's my motorcycle lift, and it is supporting the rear end. The upper control arms are still attached. I just have to pull the bolts out. So it's precariously balanced there, but I got safety blocks on each end just in case, you know, I don't want it to fall on my head. So this will either be a really funny, or this will be played back in super fast speed so it doesn't bore you to death. But my plan is to lower it down, then lift the car up so I can hopefully pivot it 90 degrees and then drop it through the bottom of the lift and lift the lift up and wheel it on out of here. Here we go. 1, 2, and a rip. Coming down slowly. All right, it's working. Hey, not bad. Now I've got to lift the car up with the jack and then pivot. Yes, thank God for lifts and air jacks. Otherwise, this is probably a 4-man operation. So there we go. I'm gonna try and twist it. Hopefully I have enough linear length. If not, plan B. Yeah, the brake is that big. Oh, man. Well, I'm flush up against the jack, so I need to think about this. Okay, here's my crazy idea. I have my 2 shop stools. You can see my old one over there. Thank God I didn't throw it away. And my new one right here, supporting the ends. So in theory, I could lower the motorcycle jack, wheel it out enough to put the motorcycle jack back underneath the middle. This is going to go really well or really bad. Let's go. Hold it, baby, hold it. Oh my gosh, I think we have clearance. Okay, it's holding. Come on, come on, come on. Get that shit out of the way. Do not fall. Excuse my language, sorry. Oh my God. Yes! Yes! Hell yeah. So many things could have gone wrong. Like if I would have lost the balance, I would have flipped up, hit the gas tank. It would have been a freaking disaster. But we did it. Oh, yes. So real quick, wanted to show you the coilovers. They're in the trash can for a reason, because one of them's leaking. So I'm going to send these back to Penske to get serviced and maybe even revalved. I don't know, but I love them because they have that reservoir. So that allows you to go even lower. Hey, I guess my time's over. I'm going to go ahead and get cleaned up and line these up side by side and get to work. Here's the right side of my 10 bolt. I took the brake off so we can see it. And you can see some major components were welded on here. What is stock is this bracket here that comes down, and this is where your strut mounted. And I had to remove the perch. So your spring perch is welded on here. You have to take it off. If you have a Currie off the shelf already painted unit, you're gonna have to do the same thing. You have to remove that spring perch. We have 3 major pieces to weld on. The first one is this guy here. And I'll show you on the Currie, but on a GM unit, you just tap it in, and this is our anti-squat bracket, so we're changing the location from here to here. That gives us better geometry. After we do that, we're going to find this mating piece, which is this guy here. So that's going to weld on the outside of the anti-squat bracket. And then lastly, side of this here. So we get to mount this to the axle, weld it up, and I'll do the step-by-step on the new axle, but that's what it looks like. And then finally, we have this little support bracket that gets welded up in here, like that. And we would call it good from there. This is the difference on the new kit. There is a locating hole on the bracket that we're welding in on the other side of the anti-squat that actually locates off that strut hole. So we're going to bolt it on. If you have a 10 bolt or 12 bolt, mine will not work, and I'll show you why when I get to it. But that's how the new setup works. I have to cut mine off here. I'll show you why. Here's the rear of my rear axle. Notice I don't have a lot of space here between the stock location of the trailing arm flanges, because if you get a standard length rear end, you're going to have one of these, which mimics the GM version, just has 2 holes, gives you some more flexibility for mounting your strut. The reason I don't have it mounted is my axle's shortened, everyone. 1 inch on either side. So this would be theoretically like right here, right where the hub is. So you could probably do it with a standard rear bearing, but a full floating, it's not going to fit. My bracket that typically bolts onto here doesn't come into play. So I am going to cut it off right there with my favorite cutting tool. I'll show off in a second. But first things first, our bracket that we slip on the existing mount like that. There's a better view of what I'm talking about. The hole is about, I don't know, 1/4 inch shy of getting flush. So I have to take a 1/4 inch off the bottom of these brackets. So these holes line up back there. Okay, you guys can see that offset, my favorite tool to use to transfer say a distance like this, are calipers. So you find your distance, lock it in, and then you can use the sharp end as a scribe. I can see that. If you guys can't see that, or you have trouble at home, you can put paint on there. Tool makers dye, that blue stuff, even a Sharpie. And we just scrape off the Sharpie, there's your mark. So now I have to do some calculations, mark all my spots, and show you my favorite cutting tool. And here's my favorite cutting tool. It's a plasma cutter from Yes Welder, and it's touchless, so that's a little guard you can actually use against a straight edge and cut your piece right off. And we don't have to be super accurate because, again, we're lining up the holes on the bracket. I'm just making this level, basically perpendicular with the housing flange in the back. And here we go. And that's what I get for doing it left-handed. I'll do it again. Much better. So I'm just gonna do that to all 4 corners and be right back. All right, when you start mocking everything up, your kit will come with these grade 8 fasteners and lock nuts. But if you want to save energy, because you do have to tighten these down, go to the hardware store and get a standard nut. So you can easily put this kit just like that. So you can easily put it together. Otherwise, you're going to be working on your arm strength, and that's not fun. So these are loose right now, but what you want to do is get them tight. All 3 here, there's these standoffs. Make sure you use them because those mimic the trailing arms, and they're the perfect size. And once you get everything tightened up, I like to go through with my Sharpie to determine exactly where I have to prep the metal for welding. So we're to go all the way around the bracket, determine where you're going to clean the metal off, clean both the bracket, this bracket, and the new bracket. If you have a GM 10 or 12 bolt, you can bolt this one on to that strut location. That helps secure everything, make sure you're in the right spot. Here we go, we're all tightened up, and that's not an optical illusion. I wedged a washer in there because this gap on the original bracket's a little too wide, and I want these to be perfectly solid because this is the one I'm worried about, and that's what I want the lower trailing arm to attach to. And a good way to test is this alternate bracket over here can still pivot, and it meets flush on both sides. Let me show you. Here's what I'm talking about. So both edges sit flush. That means this geometry is perfect. It is nice and tight. And now I can get to tacking that bottom bracket. Okay team, I'm using my new Yes Welder welder, which I'm loving. but I'm just gonna tack it in a few spots. Say here, here. I'm gonna try and get right there without getting this one, and probably on the back. Then unbolt everything and reattach these two fasteners and then finish weld everything. Let's do this. Looks good to me. So again, take all these, all the bolts off, including the brackets, re-bolt these two so they're nice and tight, and then finish weld everything. Almost there, almost there. I got this bracket welded on, put it back together, and now I'm gonna go ahead and tack it in a couple spots on the outer bracket first, tack it in a couple spots on the in middle bracket, then do full weld, and then we can take the bolts out. And there's my best weld of the day. Look at those dimes laying down right there. Okay, piece de resistance. This last corner piece right here. I'm just gonna hold it there and tack it in. I can almost see the light at the end of the tunnel. So we are done. It's cooled off. I took the bolts out and I hit some high spots for my welds with my grinder. Yes, I'm a much better grinder than I'm a welder, so save your comments. But go ahead and clean that area up, and what I recommend you do is you get this stuff from Eastwood, or whoever makes it. It's a phosphoric acid called Afterblast. So it is used to prevent from flashing rust, because that's bare steel exposed to the elements. Cover all your welds with it, all the areas you cleaned up before welding, and it prevents rust. So that's awesome, and it can sit like that for quite a while until we have to paint it. So the welding's not done yet. I promised you guys I need to show you what I have to weld up in the spring perch in the car. So let's go check that out. Here's this metal disc. I painted it black. I know it's hard to see, but that comes with the kit, and it has two tapped holes to mount the coilover into, and you have to weld this in. So you can MIG weld all around here. I actually TIG welded it from the top when I had the body off eons ago. And you also get this bracket. This bracket holds your coilover reservoir, and that comes with a kit too. So mount those, and let's discuss mock-up. Guys, I apologize. I said we'd mock this up today. There is no way I'm gonna have time to do this because I forgot something. I am using spherical bearings from Global West in my upper mounts. I also use Global West adjustable upper arms, highly recommended. But in order to put those in, we have to take these bushings out. So next episode, I think people will appreciate just doing a video on how to remove these things, because it doesn't matter if you have a Currie or 10 bolt or 12 bolt, you have to take those out, even the housings, to put these housings in. Now that's going to be a fun one on its own, and I will hope to mock it up in that episode. I have to figure out the timing for video names and all that stuff. But the other thing I forgot about before paint is I have to relocate the brake lines and brackets and everything. Yeah, it's just a compounding project list. So if you haven't figured out, below there's a bunch of links for my hats, the shirts I wear, the Yes Welder equipment. I'll even put the Eastwood Afterblast down there. You know, hit that join button, you know, help out the channel. It's called the Full Monty Club. I do keep my clothes on, but any proceeds go to the channel and help to buy more parts and keep the channel going. So until next time, you guys know the drill. Obviously leave a comment if you have a question, but more importantly, build them fast and drive them faster. See ya.